If you are given the choice to plug into a machine that can simulate any experience you want, good or bad, would you abandon reality for this perfectly tailored experience? If you're anything like me, you probably immediately thought no, and then tried to figure out why that was your first thought. I'm pretty sure when I first heard it, I thought something like, no way, that's stupid. Which is honestly kind of how I've felt about most of the thought experiments I've discussed so far. Lots of people end up hesitating, and a decent chunk just default to no. It highlights a clear preference for the real world as a whole. This is self-evident when you compile people's answers, and not actually the interesting part of this thought experiment. The real interesting part is why people tend to answer this way. Take a second and think with me for a little bit. How can you tell when you're excited about something? I start to feel restless when I'm actually excited about something. I can tell partially because it's a deviation from my baseline level of energy. It's a clear difference. Now ask yourself, if you felt excited about everything all the time, would the excitement matter at all? It's not often I feel excited, so it matters to me when I do. The fact that I don't often feel excitement is what gives it an emotional weight in my mind. I see it as a valuable feeling because it's rare for me. Let's consider that this is the case for all emotions we feel, both positive and negative ones. If you felt nothing but happiness, then the weight or value of that happiness goes down. It's not because anything has really happened to change your happiness, it's because the contrast between positive and negative emotions is what gives each one its meaning. Another part of it is that emotions are somewhat uncontrollable. We can't really stop ourselves from feeling things internally, but we can control how we express those feelings. This inability to control what we feel is also what gives emotions meaning. You can't exactly force an emotion onto yourself, so anything you feel is just something you have to manage. Either you enjoy it while it lasts, or you live with it until it fades. And you can trigger emotions, but again, that you're just triggering something that exists by itself. You're not actually controlling how it feels. So if you plugged into a machine that let you control every part of your life perfectly the way you wanted, you would also be able to exert more control over your own emotional state. This extra control is what diminishes the value of emotions. They wouldn't feel real or meaningful precisely because you would be in full control. It doesn't really matter which version of the experience machine you're talking about, because in any scenario, it fails to account for the meaningful chaos of life and our emotions. Even if the machine were set up to randomly introduce negative things to create contrasts, you would be constantly expecting these planned shifts, and so the shifts in emotion would still lose some of their meaning. If you weren't told about these changes, you would probably feel the artificial nature of it over time. The machine would have to operate using a predetermined pattern, because even random things develop patterns. This leads me to my last point. Life feels real not because it's out of our control. It's real because we have limited control. We can control our actions and work to shape our own perfect life, but things will inevitably end up getting in the way, and some things won't go the way we want them to. It's this struggle between what we can control and what we can't control that gives our lives real meaning. A fake world created by a machine and managed artificially is meaningless by default. It would lack the true chaos factors that we need to be able to appreciate life as it is. Experiencing the full range of emotions is what gives each one meaning and depth, because we have a tendency to forget or dull the real weight of something we experience too consistently. You would eventually get used to it. And that's the reason I prefer the chaotic and messy nature of real life.